everybody to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. So guys, today we're going to do a video that's a little bit slightly different than what we normally do. However, if you saw the post that pertained to these guys and this fella in particular, you will know that I had mentioned we were going to address certain things about videos coming forward. Now, the first thing is, why has the Cobra Soundwave video not come out yet? Well, in order to answer that question, it relates to the remaster thing that I had posted about these guys. So basically, if you have been following the channel for a while, you know that after the hard drive crash of last year, we really kind of been struggling to get the right video format for the reviews out. And I felt that while these guys' videos were cut the way they were supposed to be, the visual quality was not exactly what I'd hoped it to be. So I didn't want to do Soundwave's video suffering from the same quality issues that I felt their video did. However, after doing a little bit of experimenting and trying to find a superior format, I think I finally found it.
Ah, very good.
And I tested it on these guys' videos, because like I said, they're already cut the way they're supposed to be. And basically what happened out of that experimenting is we now have remastered versions of both Deathsaurus and Tigerhawk's videos. And as you can see on the screen right now, the original Deathsaurus video compared to the remaster, yeah, there is definitely quite a bit of difference there. And the other thing is, I've done some test uploads with Tigerhawk, and his video, I feel it even came out better as the remaster than Deathsaurus's did. And so anyway, I wanted to let you know that before we go ahead and upload this guy's video, we're going to go ahead and upload the remasters for these guys, again, at a better quality and more in line with what I feel they should have been from the get-go. So in order to honor that poll that we took when it was between these two guys, I did say this one was going to be next in the queue, so the next new review that we're going to do definitely will be Soundwave. So as a little preview of kind of what we're going to do for his video, I'm going to show you some of the interesting things just in vehicle mode that I found kind of unique about this guy. However, we're not going to go full in-depth with him or anybody else that we're going to look at, because we've got a few other boys I wanted to show off that are maybe surprising additions to the collection. However, let's go ahead and get started with a quick look at our Dreadnok Soundwave. So, before we get into the fine details about this guy, we have to determine who just exactly is the Soundwave catering to. So, let's say you had one row, and that is people that only like Transformers, okay? So, you also have a second row, and that's people that like both the Transformers and G.I. Joe. And then you have a third row, which is just strictly G.I. Joe. Well, this thing caters pretty much 63% to the Joe fans and about 35% to the fans of both. An absolute zero to the Transformers fans, because let's be honest, this thing right here, when I look at it, I'm like, they just wanted an excuse to make this vehicle right here, and they just kind of crowbarred in Soundwave's robot mode. And let me tell you, the transformation for this thing, it just feels tacky and cheap. And Lenny, brother, you worked on Transformers back in the day of Transformers Prime. What are you doing here, man? However, that aside, one of the interesting things I like about it is the fact that the front guns on this thing are actually capable of utilizing blast effects. And so as the cannons spin, the blast effects are now able to spin. So that was just kind of a cool little funny thing that I was like, okay, that's a little bit of a redeeming quality in it. Plus, even though this is supposed to be a Cobra vehicle, the funny thing about it is I'm getting more Mad Max vibes, because you look here and they've got like the bumper grill off a semi-truck that's just been welded and bolted into the front of a Pontiac Firebird. You can even see the Pontiac logo right there, which is kind of funny. And then this section right here is very much armored dune buggy. You've got like a flatbed sort of truck thing here with a jet engine on the back. And I'm like, oh wow, this thing is crazy. I mean, like, I like weird stuff like this. Maybe that's why I got it. And then of course you have to have the compartment with, like I said, to me, these guys are just accessories. That's how I have to justify in my head, because I know the Joe fans, they're like, they are the characters, the vehicles are secondary. And this whole figure kind of gives that vibe, unfortunately, even in robot mode. So, like I said, we will do the full-on review later on, but I just kind of wanted to show you some of the nutty details about this guy. And like I said, for the next new review that's going to come out, this guy will definitely be that. However, I did want to go ahead and transition into one of those new acquisitions that I mentioned at the outset. And obviously it is the Generation 1 Ultra Magnus. Now, truth be told, 96% of this is the commemorative one, and like some of the smaller accessories, like the other 4% are legit vintage accessories that for some reason the person that was selling the commemorative was missing. So he's a little bit of a hybrid, but he does lean a little bit more in one direction. So everything that is crispy and white is the commemorative. If it has a slight yellow tint, you know, that's that's the vintage parts. However, as you can see down here, we do have the retro versions of both Hot Rod and Hound that fit nicely on the bottom. But I did kind of find it interesting that the original Magnus mold, you can actually put two modern deluxes on the top as well. However, these guys were just here for demonstration purposes. So if you guys saw earlier, I had actually posted a video about the original Magnus. I guess it was his original toy commercial. And so anyway, it was an unintentional tease of what this video would be showing. But I kind of like those vintage commercials. And for many people that have followed the channel, you guys know I'm a Beast Wars guy. So I've never had a actual Ultra Magnus. I had like the Apex armor back in the day, but I didn't have the white prime. So for me, it's kind of cool to have an actual complete dude for once. And so here we can see Magnus with the G2 Optimus, and yeah, I really like how these guys look together. That's pretty slick. Now, one thing that a lot of people have a misunderstanding is they think that Optimus and Magnus are the same mold. And you're saying, well, aren't they? And there are a few aesthetic differences aside from the obvious color one. And so if we look at some of those differences, you can see here that Optimus, the G2 guy, has the longer smokestacks, whereas the commemorative guy has the shorter ones. And the funny, interesting thing is Optimus Prime, standard wheel in the front, tire and rim, everything moves. Well, Magnus has the same thing, except he has a static post that stays where it is, and the tire basically just spins around it. Now, Optimus didn't have that post. This is more for Magnus when he plugs into the Apex armor. So again, they are just the slightest little bit of aesthetic differences, but I did feel they were kind of noteworthy. So, with that being said, you can see here that obviously this commemorative guy is missing most of his stickers, which, I mean, repro labels, toy hacks, I mean, that's an easy fix. So, that's somewhere down the line. One thing that I did notice on the commemorative guy versus the G2 guy is if you see, his fists have that little bit of extra plastic molding around where the fist closes, whereas Optimus actually does not. So I don't know if that's to accommodate this weapon, because I think Optimus could hold Magnus's weapon. Oh, it is a little bit loose in there, so maybe that's for stability. Okay, well, I can see that being legitimate there. Alrighty, so I just kind of wanted to show you again just some of the differences between how these guys stack in robot mode. So here we can see Magnus in his more familiar robot mode, or at least the G1 approximation of it. And I gotta tell you, this thing is grand scale cheating on a lot of like areas as far as engineering. Now, one of the things I do want to go ahead and bring out is, if you guys can see here on the molding, right there where his wheel is, you can see that that post that we were talking about, that is the dedicated slot that it goes into whenever basically just the white prime, as you can see here, just plugs into the back of the Apex armor. Now, one of those extra accessories I got was another chest plate. And even though this one, like I said before, the commemorative, he'll have to have his stickers, we'll have to do that whole sheet and everything. But the extra piece that I got, I don't know if you can tell this on the camera, this thing in person has a little bit more of a seafoam tint to it than the commemorative. And I don't know whether that's just because this has got, you know, 40 years of age on it or close to. But the thing about the head is it's a very similar vibe. This thing has more seafoam green to it than the commemorative's more straight on accurate blue. So again, that could just be a side effect of the age of the authentic pieces. But regardless, overall, I think that just to have a passable Magnus in all respects, it's really cool. So here we can see how he looks with the rest of the boys. And yeah, I kind of like how he is now the big bulky dude in the back. And because I think if you're going to have a really successful setup, sometimes you have to have at least one dude, if not more than, to fill it out. And Magnus fulfills that role pretty well. So I'm definitely down with that. So we transition to this guy right here. And if you're thinking, oh, that's Generation 1 Shockwave. Yeah, kinda, I think. But here's the thing. While it has a lot of interesting things that it comes with, there are two telltale signs to differentiate whether it is a fakearoo or if it is an actual thing. One of the signs is all of the rub signs, which you can see there are no signs, no other decals that are applied to this. Plus it has silver screws, and usually if it is sans stickers and silver screws, it means it's a knockoff. Now the good thing is, when I ordered this thing, I pretty much believed it was a knockoff because of where it was coming from, and despite the seller's claims, oh, it's a Shockwave, I'm like first of all, you know, I've had an authentic vintage Shockwave. Now, getting this thing, however, it does surprise me because the plastic quality on this thing is not trash. It is actually on par, and dare I say better than the vintage Shockwave I have. And that's just because this thing is like pretty much brand new, and the other one had like 40 years of life attached to it. So like I said, the plastic quality is fantastic. The transformation, the electronics, the aesthetics, this thing, like I said, compared to the vintage one that I used to have, like this is pretty much 1-to-1. And where I was expecting this thing to be a little bit flimsy or loose or whatever, and the fact that it's just rivaling the original one that was authentic, I'm like, wow, that is actually pretty incredible. Now, the electronics in this thing is what amuses me, because it has this really annoying setting that if you flip the switch over here, you can hear the you know, oh, annoying. Whereas if you flip the switch back the other way, you get the and so, oh man, I love that. Just, you know, oh boy, you know what this reminds me of is how crazy that Galvatron gets also. And you can see here's Galvatron, another edition. He is missing quite a few pieces, so he is sans the orange barrel for this. But listen to this thing, it just, that's like one of 3 sound effects. You imagine if I was a kid, I would have had these just like running around the house like. That would have annoyed my parents so bad, they would have totally kicked me outside. But you know what? Now that I really think about it, I did have something like that. And they did send me outside, so look at that. I was correct after all. Oh yeah, now I understand why they did that. So if you'll recall, I mentioned that our boy did come with some of these. And you can see here it has a sheet full of Decepticon stickers. It does have the decoder deal. It does have a rub sign. So I'm pretty pleased with, at least I can make it look somewhat legit. Now, the other interesting thing that we need to take a look at is here's the instructions from my original authentic vintage G1 Shockwave. And here is the fakearoo. You can obviously tell they went with a lot darker coloring on that. I mean, definitely some of the font is different. If you look down there at the evil Decepticon Shockwave on the new one, that's a different font from the vintage one. And if we go ahead and open, and even just comparing the instructions, again, it's The font in here actually matches a little bit better, but again, it is a much darker print down here on the new guy stuff as opposed to the vintage instructions on top. So here is our guy in his robot mode, and I have to tell you something. I forgot to flip the arms around. Shame on me. There we go. That's more accurate. And this is supposed to come around this way. Now, this guy right here, just because of the, due to the nature of his design, from the front, his legs look very skinny. However, by that same nature, when you turn them to the side, the boy's legs are super thick. And man, even despite that kind of front-on silliness of how skinny the legs are, I totally dig this. Plus the fact that I have always loved how even in robot mode, you can have the lights and sounds. Oh yes, you can even have that annoying one, but I don't know why you would, Whew, man, yeah, God, I hate that noise. Anyway, I mean, compared to other dudes, Shockwave, he's kind of iconic, and the whole thing about the G1 figures is they do not scale together at all. And that's due to being pulled in from different companies, because there is no way that Shockwave, and even though this is the Ruination recolor, you can tell these were just from two different toy lines, because in no way is Shockwave as big as a combiner. I mean, that's just silly. Whereas maybe guys like Galvatron, who himself as a figure was designed for Transformers, as opposed to this dude over here, he's about the only one that scales appropriately with him. And I think, Galvatron being the big bad dude that he is, he should be taller than Shockwave. So this actually works pretty well together. So guys like these two, and like we saw with Magnus, they are just absolute giants, and I'm totally digging that. Now, as you guys saw with Shockwave, he does have like the legs extend out of his body and stuff, which does give him a little bit of, you can see that he can bend at the knee and he can actually bring his thigh up. And that's actually something that Galvatron himself shares. And Galvatron, much like Magnus and one other figure we're going to look at, man, they just need some serious sticker work. But, as you can see right here, oh, you can press this belt buckle and have the light up eye. See, the cannon plugs into the top of his head. I forgot about it. So anyway, as you can see, these legs, they actually do come up, and they have a bend in the knee, which I did not know that. Yeah, there you go. So yes, Galvatron with his very pointy knees can actually come up and kick somebody in the throat now. Man, I don't know why. I was on a Transmetal kick, because you guys know I'm a Beast Wars kid, but the thing about it is, it's just these G1 guys. Like I said, there's something about them that I cannot help but like. And man, I cannot wait till, because I ordered from Destron Designs, I ordered the pieces for this Galvatron that I'm missing. And yeah, it's gonna be cool. I did go ahead and order the stickers for him, so I'm looking forward to getting this boy all cleaned up and everything, because right now he's kind of rough. And our next guy, give him a minute. He'll be in the center of the fray, but he can get there himself. He's big boy. Oh man, yeah, this boy, he's gonna require a little bit of work too, but I knew that going into it, because he's missing a ton of stuff. But for me, it's more about just, over time I'll get everything I need to for Trypticon, but just to have a Generation 1 dude like this that walks on his own. I mean, him and Omega Supreme are kind of in a class of their own, and I got to experience my friend's Omega Supreme that he bought. And what's funny is he was telling me the other night, because I sent him a video of Trypticon walking, and he's like, man, Trypticon walks a little bit faster. And we discovered that, yeah, between the two of them, because Trypticon's actually stepping forward, whereas like Omega Supreme, the way they engineered him is more like he's just kind of like shuffling his feet. And oh boy, one day we might have to square these boys off in a video or something, because I'm totally digging it. However, as much as I love a giant mechanical T-Rex walking under his own power, there's something else that I really like about Trypticon in base mode, actually. Okay, so this is something that I have not found in any video online, because for me, one of the reasons I wanted to get Trypticon was because he actually connects, and this is the Mega Octane, but it's essentially the same mold as Onslaught. And I've always wondered, how did he officially connect to Trypticon? And that's because there is a little connector piece over here, and you can kind of see that it's got this divot out of it. And basically the way this functions is it's very just kind of cheeky, because it doesn't technically connect to Trypticon with a secure connection. It's kind of a little bit iffy. So if we go ahead and we take Mega Octane here, and we go ahead and remove the tank bit from his head, you can see that on the back of his head he's kind of got this little jut out here that you can see how really kind of skinny his head is, but this little jut out right here that thing was plugged into will actually serve a purpose. So if we go ahead and turn the head back around this way, this will plug into the bottom part of the pod over here on Trypticon, and literally Mega Octane or Onslaught, his head will just kind of sit, that little divot will just kind of sit in there, and that's all. That's basically it. So it's just kind of resting on the piece, sort of in a slot, and I was a little bit disappointed, but anyway. And now officially they're hooked up together. Now, it does not suggest where to put his back cannons, so what I like to do is I just go ahead and like to put them in the reverse position of where they would be in vehicle. I mean, this is the same spots for whenever he's in vehicle mode, they go like this. But you can go ahead, and if you would just want to put them somewhere at the very least, there you go. So again, it's just a slight little interesting feature that I have not seen anywhere on YouTube. And if somebody already showed this off, great. But if not, well, here it is now. Now we come to one whose modern day counterpart is contested in some circles. Now, I will say this about the R.I.D. show overall, is I've been on the bandwagon for that show for the last 23 years. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are honestly, just discovering it. And I'm like, hey, welcome aboard, I'm talking about the ones that are genuinely trying to understand and get into the show themselves. Those are the people that I'm totally cool with. And one of the reasons I love the show was because design-wise, you got a little bit of Beast Wars, you got a little bit of G2, and also you got a little bit of G1. And all these characters were in the show together, a little bit more sized appropriately, but it all worked because alongside that stuff you had designs that at the time, like this guy, were fresh designs that we'd never seen before. I know this is Cybershark, not Skybite, but just, I didn't care for Skybite's coloration. I've always preferred Cybershark's colors over Skybite's. But the reason I'm kind of showing this off is the fact that I like this character. Like I said, I've been on the bandwagon for over 2 decades now. Whenever this show came out, it was in some of my formative years. I wasn't a kid anymore. I was like 13, but I was still down with the Transformers. And so they are one of the core tenets of my Transformers experience. And it was funny because before they ever even announced the Haslab, I'd actually ordered this DVD collection because they never released the series at all in the North America. But this is the English dub of the cartoon, and I bought this, and then like a week later they announced the Haslab, and I'm like, wow, that was actually some pretty good timing. So I've kind of been going back, and now I don't have to rely, because my fear was, okay, what if that guy's YouTube channel, what if he just closes it down and that all disappears? So I was like, you know what, I just kind of want to have a copy of it myself, and I'm really excited because I went ahead and backed the Haslab deal, and I know that as of the time of this recording, the actual Matrix blade that he has been backed. Another thing is that we are like less than 1,000 away from like tier number 2, which is the global space bridge stand things that they got going on, and hopefully if that gets backed, they'll have some 3rd tier that will unlock. And anyway, so I'm just really excited for Omega Prime to have a new updated figure, because let me tell you a little bit of history of this guy. Is after the show ended, his fiction actually continued. So basically, he got pulled into the universe war and actually aided Optimus Primal in fighting the minions of Unicron. Well, as that reality was collapsing, he ended up getting pulled in a transwarp tunnel, not to his home reality, but actually that of the Unicron trilogy, and more specifically in the time frame of Cybertron. So while Optimus of that universe and his boys were all off getting the Cyber Planet keys, this version of Optimus and Magnus were defending the planet from Nemesis Prime and other Unicronian agents that were trying to destroy Cybertron. Once Optimus of the Cybertron series came back home, he and this version of Optimus, he met this Optimus and Magnus, and he actually thanks them for protecting Cybertron in his absence. And yes, and then on top of that, this boy has had other adventures that have continued over the last 20 years. And so it's just kind of, the insane thing is this guy actually connected with his arch enemy, well, they call him Devil Gigatron, but it's basically the Galvatron from the series. He was able to hook up and form a giant claw for this, and the toys can actually do that, not very well, but both the Megatron and the Galvatron can connect. Can you imagine if you had like both of those figures? You could connect one over here and one over here, and then Omega Prime would just have like these giant, massive claws. I mean, oh man, you can tell I'm excited and I really enjoy this area of the Transformers franchise. So anyway, guys, like I said, it was just kind of, I want to pay a little bit of due to Soundwave, and that's why I just went over some of the stuff in vehicle mode, and I'm going to save everything else for his official review. And that's why we didn't go full in-depth over everything that we saw here, is because, man, I just wanted to showcase the stuff off that I've recently gotten, show you guys that I'm behind this. If you aren't, I totally get it. Because let's be honest, R.I.D. is not everybody's cup of tea. BMAC and them, picked the exact midpoint of the Transformers franchise, and it just happened to land on this. Thank God it wasn't Beast Machines, because I would have been like, oh, heck no. But anyway, you guys know I don't really care for it. Again, if you love the series, great for you. Great for you. But other than that, before I ramble on too much, guys, thank you for watching this video. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.
This isn't over yet, Optimus Prime! I'll be back! I promise you!